How's it going, guys? It's the Big Slay Pumpkin, and welcome back to another Versus video. And today, we'll be comparing Spirit Halloween 2010 Uncle Charlie versus the remade version from Spirit Halloween 2020. Now, this has been requested by a lot of people, so I'm happy to finally be able to do it. Now, this is going to be kind of a different Versus video, since normally I don't do props that, have the same animation or just reskins of each other, but this is an exception. And I mean, the animation, of course, is different for these two since they're 10 years apart, and obviously technology has improved since then. But that's not to say that this should affect any of my decisions to give the points to. So anyways, as always, we compare three things: animation, audio/phrases, and overall look. So I say, without further ado, let's jump straight into it with audio for Spirit Halloween 2010 Uncle Charlie. What you just listened to is Spirit Halloween 2010 Uncle Charlie's audio. Now, for the rest of this video, I'm going to be calling the Uncle Charlie's original Uncle Charlie being this one, and the remake being the new one, obviously. But anyways, back to the video. Now, I think the audio is really solid on this prop. You just listened to all of his phrases, so obviously that took a while, but I think the audio is actually really good. I mean, of course, the speaker quality was awful back then, but I think the voice is very creepy and ominous, and I think it is a very good voice for a clown, because it's not high-pitched and goofy. It's more like it definitely has more of a creepy tone than a lot of other clowns. So I really like his audio. I think it is really solid, and it matches the prop a lot, too. But anyways, now let's take a look at the remake Uncle Charlie to see who compares.
A little candy? Come on. I won't hurt you. Much. Step right up. The first to live an hour inside wins a prize.
What you just listened to was the remake of Uncle Charlie's audio. Now, this audio, of course, it's the same as the original. I think there's a few extra phrases, and I think those are cool, but I mean, I mainly focused on the voice for these, to be honest. I think the extra phrases are cool, but I'm not gonna, even though there's extra ones, I'm not gonna instantly give the point to the new Uncle Charlie. But anyways, let's discuss his phrases. Now, I think his phrases are really cool. Obviously, the ones that are from the original are cool as well. That's most of them. I think there's either one or two extra added phrases. I think his voice is really cool. It definitely sounds like the original, but it's definitely not as deep, which makes it kind of sound a little less menacing, in my opinion. If his voice was deeper, I feel like it would be a lot more scarier, and I think they really just should have used the original's audio on this guy, or got the same voice actor back. They definitely could have got the same voice actor, but obviously he can't, I'm sure they could, recreate the exact performance, but, I think they wanted it to be more, higher, his voice, but I think a lower and deeper voice would have been way more scary, in my opinion. And I think the original, just overall, has a better voice, even though the speaker audio is awful, because the speaker's terrible on that thing. I still think the voice is better on the original Uncle Charlie. So, for audio and phrases, I'm going to have to give the point to the original Uncle Charlie. Sorry to the new one, but I just think the voice holds up, and it is definitely very creepy, the voice. Not so much on the new one. So without further ado, let's take a look at animation for the new Uncle Charlie. Now for animation, we got the new Uncle Charlie. I think his animation is pretty decent. It's pretty simple, but let's break it down. He just has head movement, so he moves his head from side to side, and his mouth moves. I think the mouth movement is a little bit lackluster, but I mean, it's the same as every Seasonal Visions prop, so I really can't take away anything from it. I think the mouth animation is definitely a needed or a necessity if they were to remake him, which they obviously did. And I think the mouth animation is actually really nice and a step up from the original. The head movement is also a lot more fluid, and I think I really like his head movement a lot. Obviously, it's, again, the same on every SVI prop, but it is very fluid, which is nice. Now, that's going to pretty much be it for his animation. So let's take a look at the original Uncle Charlie's animation and see how he stacks up to the new one's animation. Now for the original Uncle Charlie's animation. Since it was 2010, of course, there's going to be very simple animation. All he does is turn his head from side to side. There's really no mouth animation or really anything else going on, so it's very basic. His head animation isn't very fluid either, as I mentioned with the other one. That's why I think the other one has better animation, so I'm just going to be giving the point to him. I mean, I think everybody saw it coming since he has more animation than the original, and his animation is a lot more fluid. But I do have to say this was a good attempt in 2010. It's better than no animation at all, certainly. But I just think they could have done a little bit more. Even though it was 2010, there definitely could have been a little bit more added. But, of course, the point goes to the original Uncle Charlie. So now let's look in our final category and see who wins it from there. Now for our final category, overall look. Now, I just have to say right off the bat, the original Uncle Charlie is creepy. This has to be a very creepy clown, in my opinion. I think, let's start off with his face. I think his face is super creepy. There's a lot of nice details in there, and even though it doesn't have any mouth animation, it still makes him look very creepy. The shape of it is kind of weird, to be honest, but I think it looks good for what it is, and especially considering the time, I think the head mold looks really nice. Now moving on, his suit is kind of basic. The rips in it look very fake, and I mean, I think just the shape of his body and all the poles in it just really don't look very good, in my opinion, like how they're sticking out. You could definitely see the whole big, like how there's definitely like a huge pole, like a circular pole going around there. But I mean, it was 2010, but still, I think the face is super creepy. I like how he's holding the lollipop and the free candy bucket. That's obviously Uncle Charlie's signature stuff. His hat looks really nice. His hair looks nice. It matches the head, and I think the hat also matches the head. His pants are just obviously just black, super basic, and then he has red shoes, which also look really nice. I also like his big bow tie and his flower on his vest. I think the shirts are pretty much the same between the new one and the old one, but I really like the old one's face, definitely. I think it looks very creepy, but let's see how the new one stacks up to the original Uncle Charlie's overall appearance. Now the new Uncle Charlie. Let's start off again by looking at his face. I think the face is very similar to the original, but just doesn't quite hit the spot for the original's look. It definitely looks less intimidating and less creepy, especially with the eyes. I really wish they gave him more of a narrowed look on his face, like he's angry or something, or he's like a sinister look on his face. But I mean, his face looks kind of dull, but I think it's still it looks good enough to be similar enough to the original, where it definitely is doing what it's trying to achieve, bringing the original into a modern era. I think the shirt looks a lot better on this, how the colors are a lot more faded and dull and more grim looking. The lollipop isn't as good. I feel like it's a lot more cheap, and that's what they've been using on Seasonal Vision has been using on a lot of their new like things that hold lollipops, and I think it just looks really fake. I really wish they would use something a lot more like the original. The free candy bucket looks a lot like the original. There's really no difference there. It looks nice. I think the stance Uncle Charlie is in here is also better than the original. And then his pants and his shoes are pretty much the same, except his shoes are the really flimsy plastic mold. But I think the shoes here look better because they're a lot more detailed than just like the what do you call it, like felt material, same material the original's hat is made of. I do like the hat here again too. I think it's a lot bigger than the original's hat, which, I mean, I don't really understand why they had to make it huge. But I think it still fits him nicely, and especially his hair does as well. But considering all of that, I think the original's overall look is still a lot creepier than the new one. So, of course, creepiness is just like the main thing in overall look. So I'm definitely going to have to give the point for overall look to the original Uncle Charlie, just because his face, there's just something so creepy about it, in my opinion. I think the new one just really doesn't capture the creepiness, but I feel like they did a good job definitely bringing it into the modern era. But I really wish they could have recaptured the creepiness, made him even more scary, but the original gets the point for overall look. So now, let's see who wins. And now, the winner of this versus video matchup between the original Uncle Charlie from Spirit Halloween 2010 and the new one from Spirit Halloween in 2020. And the winner is the original Uncle Charlie. Now, a lot of people will agree with me here and a lot of people won't, but I definitely see both sides of the argument here. But I have to say, I think the original one is better. Now, a lot of people know I'm not a big fan of Uncle Charlie in general, but I do think the original one is a very creepy clown, and I still think that the original one is a really good clown, definitely better than a lot of the modern ones we've been seeing. And it definitely reminds me of Halloween a lot, and it's just very creepy in my opinion. But I definitely like the original better. I do like the new one, but it just doesn't match to the original in my opinion. But overall, I had a fun time making this versus video. Definitely, remember, this is just my opinion, so let me know who you think is better in the comments below. And as always, this is the Pixelated Pumpkin, signing out.